Good morning. Welcome to this edition of the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Muller. I'm broadcasting from our 13 News Now studios in Southeast Virginia, specifically Norfolk, Virginia, serving all of Hampton Roads. That's Southeast Virginia around the opening of the mouth of the bay. If you're from outside of this area, you're going, where exactly is that? We're nestled in right next to Virginia Beach, and down along the Outer Banks, we serve Northeast North Carolina as well. Each and every day, Monday through Friday, we do the Weather Desk, and it's really a look at today's top weather stories and weather headlines from not only here locally, but from across the region, around the country, and many times from around the world and even beyond. Sometimes we get into some space stories and space weather, things, discoveries from other planets, just a lot of great stuff. Well, what do we have for you today? Let's take a look at the topics that we're going to cover. We're going to have a weekend storm wrap up. A lot of flooding, rain. There were big issues down across the southeast U.S. We have some national stories to throw at you, plus some local impacts from right here across Hampton Roads. Some trees down. There was some flooding reported across our area as well. Now, you wonder about the flooding, and I thought this was kind of a cool story. Our producer came across this one from one of our sister stations. Talks about the United States Geological Survey, the USGS, and how they measure flooding and how they get that word out to first responders and how they monitor these flood events to help refine our forecasts for the future. So if you're interested in knowing more about how kind of the mechanism works behind some of these great forecasts you get when we talk about flood outlooks and potential, this is going to be a good story to check out. That'll be coming up in just a bit. We do have flood watches out, and we actually have what we call a weather impact alert for our local market here in Hampton Roads in Northeast North Carolina. I'll explain why. Then we've got an update on the tropics. We'll talk about the next potential system, what its name will likely be, and where that thing is developing coming up. And I've got the Hampton Roads forecast and the outlook through the upcoming week. So plenty to go over in the next 25 minutes or so. We'll get you covered, but we're going to start with the information on this weather impact alert for Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. And really, if I was going to refine this and make this super, super specific, I would tell you it's primarily for Northeast North Carolina. And that's because the National Weather Service took an area that was under flood watch and has extended the Northeast North Carolina portion of our viewing area to run this through not only this afternoon and this evening, but through 2 a.m. tomorrow. So chances for more heavy downpours. We're not outlooked for severe storms. Some of the storms could be a little stronger. Certainly some heavy downpours will be possible, mainly in North Carolina, but there could be some in southeastern or eastern Virginia as well. We'll take a look at the futurecast. You'll see what I'm talking about. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to stay weather aware with the showers and storms developing later today, and be mindful you could encounter some issues with some maybe slow drainage areas or standing water on some of the roadways, especially down through North Carolina. So we're going to be watching all of that for you. I want to show you that flood watch again. Basically, it's Northeast North Carolina and then areas all the way down to the south. It's about 2/3 of the entire state of North Carolina, but the 13 News Now viewing area, both sides of the Albemarle Sound, down through the Outer Banks, there is the potential for additional flash flooding. The ground here has had so much water, it really can't take much more. So while I think we could see some stray storms develop across Southeast Virginia as well, the heavier activity that develops down here, there's just not going to be anywhere for the water to go. So those poor drainage areas, the ground being saturated, they're going to back up quickly, and we could have those issues with some flooding. So that gives you a heads up, and that's why we're under this weather impact alert. So heavy rain has been producing trouble for the eastern U.S., and I want to start off by showing you the radar and satellite images. We had some thunderstorms roll across North Carolina, some heavier storms, a lot of lightning just south of our viewing area, south of the Albemarle Sound. That stuff's all offshore, still some rain showers kind of lingering, but exiting even the southern Outer Banks. So we're kind of catching our breath here, but this was not the case as we take you back in time over the last 48 hours. You could see the storms that were at times erupting. This was early Sunday morning. Then we got another round. Watch it develop during the afternoon, coming through. Very heavy rains overnight. And again, this ground very much saturated. It wasn't just here. You can see off to the north, parts of West Virginia getting hit with some storms on Saturday, then additional rain coming through on Sunday, some heavy pockets of rain. And when that happens in the mountainous regions, we really get into a lot of trouble. So I do want to focus as we get things started on West Virginia. You see the storms coming through. It was heavy rain and deadly flash flooding that prompted West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey to declare a state of emergency. At least 5 people have been pronounced dead. Multiple people are still missing, and a residential building was almost entirely destroyed from weather impacts. Here's ABC's Rhiannon Alley with the details.
This morning, parts of West Virginia under a state of emergency after flash floods swept through the northern part of the state. At least 5 people, including a 3-year-old child, are dead, several others missing. Ohio County saw up to 4 inches of rain in less than half an hour, destroying homes, washing out roads, and submerging cars. In Fairmont, people outside this ice cream shop had to push vehicles out of the rising water. This apartment building partially collapsing, several apartments destroyed. Water gushing out as residents fled to safety. One woman desperately trying to escape with her 1-year-old daughter.
I started hearing something like bursting, and it was other people's windows bursting because their apartments were filling up with water. I don't know, it was scary how fast it could happen. 1 second I was washing dishes, the other minute I'm swimming down the hallway with my child.
Now residents who lost everything are left to pick up the pieces.
First floor of our building was completely flooded and all of our belongings destroyed and gone. I have a dog that's still inside the building and I have no clue what to do now.
Rhiannon Alley, ABC News, New York.
Some incredible images here, some of the stories that are coming out of West Virginia. Here's what we're going to focus on. Here in Norfolk, we had heavy rain and strong storms roll through last night. You take a look here, some of those heavier rains through North Carolina as well. But the storms last night knocked over several trees right here in Norfolk and around Hampton Roads. This video is taken by our crew from the Ghent area, just here around the corner in downtown Norfolk from our studios, and very close to Harris Teeter. People there were watching these trees come down, a product of a lot of rain. Norfolk police say they learned that this tree fell over around Stockley Gardens at about 5:45 last evening. A few cars were damaged, but fortunately, no one was hurt with that particular situation. So good to see that. We also had heavy winds and rain yesterday that knocked down 2 other trees along Route 58 in Suffolk. So this is near the downtown exit. Here were some of the photos sent to us by a viewer last night around 7 before first responders got there. Now, we've reached out for more information from Suffolk officials, and we'll get you updates when more information becomes available. But again, some trees knocked over. You've got a lot of rain going on, and then you get some winds. There was also flooding in multiple areas of Suffolk. This morning, some of the residents woke up to flooding in their neighborhood. So our newsroom got a tip from a viewer on Broad Street in Suffolk who said the streets near her home were overflowing. Our crew went out to check it out and saw water reaching the bottom of parked cars. So a lot of wet weather across the area. You can see other photos here from the Everything Suffolk VA Facebook group. They have these pictures taken, and the 13 News Now viewers' Ring doorbell showing a lot of rain out there and that standing water. This is kind of indicative with that water just backing up in poor drainage areas like you see there. This is from Lisa Renee. Another one of the photos was taken from a Factory Street area, which is on the other side of downtown from Broad Street. Just a lot of standing water out there, and that has been a big issue. I want to come back to the maps. We're going to take a look nationally at what's going on here. We'll talk a little bit about the threats, and we'll look forward to additional flooding outlooks. Over the western part of the country, things much quieter here, but it has been so unsettled over the weekend. weekend in the eastern U.S. The U.S. Open played up just out to the east of Pittsburgh yesterday. Lots of rain over the weekend, interrupting play from time to time. They did finish the tournament. Very exciting finish to that tournament, but impacted by the weather. Just an example of one of the events that really impacted with the rain. There were some issues with some of the Major League Baseball games with wet weather across eastern parts of the country as well. Right now we're looking at some wet weather down along the Gulf Coast, Louisiana. We've got some wet weather scattered from southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, and Indiana. Some heavier pockets of rain back up across Minnesota, and still our chances for wet weather here. As we take a look, looks like there's a thunderstorm warning there right in the north central part of Iowa, but I do want to talk to you about the flood potential and the outlook. You can see across the north central U.S. the chances just a moderate or just a level 1, slight risk there off to the north. As we look here, we kind of get into that level 2 threat down across North Carolina, and that's an area that I'm going to come back to and talk some more about the flood potential in just a bit. Now, the severe weather outlook, I mentioned we are not outlooked for severe weather here in the mid-Atlantic, and a lot of our viewers that are joining us right now on 13 News Now Plus are from Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina. If you are watching from other parts of the country, we always cover your areas as well. So I really want to focus on this level 3 threat for severe weather. So that's kind of an enhanced risk of severe weather from Minnesota into the extreme western part of Wisconsin and then central Nebraska also with that level 3. That means numerous severe thunderstorms are going to be possible later today and later into the afternoon and evening. You'll notice we also have that elevated risk for tornado development, and that's kind of that second tier of elevated risk right there in Minnesota. So watches will go up. Folks here need to be prepared for some potential tornadic development rotations with some of those storms, very powerful storms there. And then that level 1 threat extending back through Nebraska into the eastern parts of Wyoming and southern Montana, all the way up through Billings. As for the rest of the country, it's pretty quiet today in terms of the storm threats. Now, the large hail potential, and here we have this hashed area. Remember where you see those little white hash marks right in here? That means there could be 2-inch or greater diameter hail. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to see it, but these are the best chances right here through Minnesota, down through northern Nebraska, maybe the southern tier of South Dakota, and then back into Wyoming and Montana once again. The wind potential also greatest right here across Nebraska. So this storm system could produce some very strong winds. Areas in this area identified with the hashtags or the hash marks as well, 75-mile-per-hour winds or greater with some of those strongest gusts. So there is a lot to watch in that part of the country. We will, of course, do it. How about tomorrow? Well, the severe weather threat settles to the south. St. Louis kind of on the edge of that severe weather threat, just a level 1 threat there. But you get back into Kansas City, back up through Omaha, southern parts of Iowa, and then back across Kansas from right around the Kansas City area, back out across areas maybe around the Wichita area just off to the north. They do have that level 3 threat. Again, that enhanced risk with the possibility of tornadoes back there across Kansas once again, parts of northwest Missouri. Again, the eastern and southern parts of Missouri not included in that elevated risk for tornadoes, but just out to the west and through Kansas, this is the area more likely, and that's for Tuesday. East Coast looking good today and tomorrow in terms of severe weather. But remember, we do have that potential for flooding, which we'll come back to in just a moment. Now, the strong wind potential, greatest back across Kansas. This is for tomorrow as well. You will notice, though, with some of the isolated cells that could develop tomorrow, central and western parts of Virginia, I'd say from the Piedmont back out through West Virginia, we'll have to watch for some gusty winds with some of the stronger storms, large hail potentially back across Kansas as well. Wednesday, the severe weather threat shifts a little farther to the east. Now we've got that level 2 or slight risk extending from the lower peninsula of Michigan across the northern Ohio River Valley, back through the mid-Mississippi Valley, and all the way down through Oklahoma. So again, as that system pulls a little farther to the east, we'll be watching for that on Wednesday. That system will continue to work eastward, and eventually we'll see another chance for storms here in the mid-Atlantic coming up on Thursday. Take a look at the futurecast. You can see the eruption of storms there kind of moving along and how things progress as we get into our Wednesday. By Thursday and beyond, it continues to slide eastward. Now, I want to come back to the flooding threat and the outlook. Again, we have a level 2 threat from the southeast part of Missouri back across southern Illinois, Indiana, and a good chunk of Kentucky there, as well as this area right here in Hampton Roads on down to the south. You get down around the Albemarle Sound, this is that level 2 threat, and we do have the flood watch for the North Carolina part of our viewing area, and really all of this area in North Carolina under that flood watch through 2 a.m. tomorrow. You can see for parts of Hampton Roads, Southside, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Suffolk, parts of Isle of Wight, back towards Franklin and Southampton, and then the extreme northern part of North Carolina, we have that level 1 threat. There's a lot that goes into determining how these flooding events play out. And during major flood events, the U.S. Geological Survey is on the front line, sometimes before responders even get there, and they want to report the water conditions that they monitor and help inform first responders and then help predict future weather events. Simone Simpson from our sister station in San Antonio, Texas, breaks it down.
The United States Geological Survey's goal is simple: keeping people safe. This agency is sometimes on the front lines before first responders to report to them of water conditions that can help inform them of future weather events.
Public safety is a big thing for us. Anytime there's a big event like this, we are the ones that are responding immediately, because we're watching it constantly.
Mike Nyman is one of many scientists with the U.S. Geological Survey.
It's following this flood pulse from San Antonio all the way to the coast.
This acoustic Doppler current profiler is measuring the velocity, depth, and direction of the water in the San Antonio River in Floresville.
We started on Thursday making measurements up in San Antonio, and as the storm moved through and the waters came up, we go through and we try to focus on getting high flow events.
That information is passed along to the National Weather Service, flood forecasters, and emergency managers, along with first responders. This drone is high in the sky, measuring the speed of the water in the river.
We measure how high the water gets and how fast it moves. And so because that affects the timing of when it's going to get to the next community.
Nyman continues, this information is crucial when coming up with evacuation tactics.
Up in the hill country, up around San Antonio, you have a lot of elevation change. And so that water, when it hits the city and they can't absorb into the earth, so we call it impervious cover, concrete and asphalt. All that water moves off very quickly and starts moving downstream.
One of the tools you can register for now is the National Water Dashboard.
If you live near a river or where a gauge is, you can subscribe to this. It's called Water Alert. And Water Alert will send you a text or an email. Anytime the water comes up, if the water is coming up quickly, it'll send you a text, go, hey, you should be aware of this.
Reporting from Floresville, Simone Simpson, KENS 5.
It is interesting to see how they monitor the flows and obviously putting that technology to work, whether it's drones or remote. That would be drones or remote sensing, different ways that they can do that to measure the speed and the volume of the water moving along. Very important information there. Now we take a look at the outlook for floods tomorrow. You can see kind of a level 2 threat back across West Virginia into southwest parts of Pennsylvania. More potential flooding, Iowa back into Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska. So that's over the next couple of days. By Wednesday, just a level 1 threat back across the Great Lakes down through Missouri. So plenty to watch there. We're going to turn our attention now to the tropics and the tropical update as we take a look along the southeastern U.S. seaboard. Things pretty quiet aside from the storms that were rolling off. These, again, not tropical, just some clusters of storms that we've been monitoring moving along with the storm system there, an area of low pressure. Down over the Gulf, you can see there is some development here in the Bay of Campeche, the southern part of the Gulf here. The northern Gulf looks pretty quiet. We're also looking at showers and storms that are kind of blossoming here in the southwest part of the Caribbean, but none of this stuff, not what's happening in the lower part of the Gulf or what's happening here in the southern Caribbean, is really showing any signs of organization. We still always keep an eye to that, because when you get these clusters of storms that develop and the sea surface temperature is really warm, sometimes that warm sea surface temperature can help fuel and help get some of these things better organized. But right now, no significant threats. As we look out across the ocean, just some isolated clouds, maybe a couple of showers here and there, but nothing that's showing any signs of organization, and none is expected over the next 7 days. In the Eastern Pacific, different story. We had Dahlia over the weekend. That is no more, but we're watching another cluster here that has about a 70 to 80% chance for development as we go over the next couple of days, of 70%, and then 80% within the next 7 days. If it takes a name, it would become Eric. That's the next name on the list. After Eric, we go back to F, which is a female's name. It's Flossie. Love that name. So this is Eric, the next one on the list, Flossie after that. But at this point, it's still just a developing wave. It has not taken on the name Eric yet. Very likely, though, it will. All right, here's what's happening at our local beaches. Folks getting out and enjoying some of the wave action here. You can see a few waves breaking, maybe 2 to 3 feet occasionally, but for the most part, the wave height's been very low. There's just a very low threat of rip currents. Folks out seeming to enjoy the surf. Pretty nice day out there at the beach. You do see the clouds out there. It's 75, cloudy at the airport. Dew points at 72, so it is pretty muggy. The UV index, despite the clouds, still pretty high at 7.8, so it takes maybe 25 to 30 minutes before a sunburn begins. When you see that sunshine peeking through the clouds, you got to have that sunscreen on. As I mentioned, along the Virginia Beach coast, the the rip current threat is low. Back up to the north, though, from Wallops Island through Ocean City and along the Delaware coast, you head up through the Jersey Shore and along Long Island, you have a moderate threat of rip currents. That moderate threat continues down around Hatteras and along Ocracoke as well. So for our areas, northern part of the Outer Banks, Virginia Beach, we're in good shape as far as rip current threat goes. But down south or far to the north, you do have a moderate threat. At the beaches today, it is mostly cloudy right now. We'll see a little bit of sunshine peeking through around the middle part of the day, and then keep an eye to the radar. Hopefully you won't get hit with a storm if you and your family plan to go to the beach. You'll want nice weather for that. But there is at least a chance there could be something popping up. Again, rip current threat is low. Out on the water today, we've seen winds generally in that 5 to maybe 15 knot range. We'll see that from the east shifting to the northeast on the bay and southeast to northeast on the ocean waters. Again, the sea's 2 to 3 feet. I just showed you the live sky view, and that's what's happening right now down at the ocean front. Over the next 9 hours, we're looking at a mix of clouds and sunshine, low risk of stray showers or storms at Norfolk International, but across the region, there's maybe a 30 to say 40% chance for, some isolated to scattered wet weather. The chances will be fairly low today for Norfolk, greater down across North Carolina. We also have a chance for a few isolated storms, so today or tomorrow. Lower on Wednesday. Wednesday's going to be partly cloudy, but it's going to be hot. Temperatures getting up into the lower to mid 90s. Mid-90s for Juneteenth there. Thursday, we do have a chance for isolated to scattered showers or storms late, and then drier heading into the first weekend of summer. Friday, we're going to be back into the upper 80s, mostly sunny, looking good for Saturday, but heat returns as we get into the weekend. So right now, things are quiet. All the wet weather we had yesterday, that's kind of moved out and settled down. We'll take the break. Our futurecast way overblown off to the north. This is not happening right now, so don't get worked up about that. It's just the starting point for the model, and it really missed on that. I do think we could see a few isolated showers or storms developing during the afternoon, and that is something that we're going to be watching for. It's very much in line with what we've seen for the past couple of days, and it is still very muggy out there. So as temperatures climb up close to 80 degrees, I think downtown area maybe a little bit warmer. We're going to see the potential for a few stray showers or storms to develop. Down to the south into North Carolina, this is where that flood watch is, and this is where we could see some heavier development, say 6:15, 6:30. That stuff will eventually quiet down. Then a little bit of a break by late evening. Overnight, some more wet weather. After that, things should improve as we get into tomorrow. think our Tuesday is looking better. Still a chance for a stray shower or storm, but you don't see as much development, and this is really later Tuesday evening. Now, as we get into Wednesday, it's going to be hot. Temperatures back up, lower 90s, as I mentioned, low to mid 90s through the afternoon on Wednesday, but the sky should be partly cloudy, so we'll take a break from the rain. Even if it is a little warmer, I think most folks just ready for a break. Rainfall totals in general, probably less than a quarter or half an inch. But underneath those heavier downpours, you could quickly see a half an inch or more, maybe a half an inch to an inch around Edenton, out towards Ahoskie or anywhere down around the Outer Banks. If you get those heavier cells and you get one moving after the other, 1 to 2 inches of rain, not out of the question. As I mentioned for Norfolk, though, lighter amounts as most of the models, the Euro, the Canadian, the Graph model, the U.S., the global forecast system there, and the NAM, all producing quarter inch or less for Norfolk. So not as much right around the airport or areas right along the bay, but down to the south, the potential is there for some heavier downpours. Today's allergy report looking good. Grass, the only thing really showing up right now, and that pollen level is low. So just stay mindful of that. Not really a big issue. There is that chance for stray showers or storms, especially the southern tier of the south side and into North Carolina. Off to the north, chances are lower. It will be cloudy. There could still be maybe a random shower or two, a little heavier downpour in a few spots, but not looking too bad. Upper 70s for the peninsula, mid to upper 70s for the middle peninsula, and for the eastern shore, mid 70s there as well. For northeast North Carolina, upper 70s to low 80s, chances for a few thunderstorms there late in the day, and you see the chances pretty much anywhere across North Carolina for those locally heavy downpours. So again, the flood watch is in place, and that'll run through 2 a.m. tomorrow. Mostly cloudy, lows tonight near 70, so another warm and muggy night. Showers or storms, a possibility. We'll see what develops. I think we'll see some probably late evening up to about midnight or so. Isolated storms possible tomorrow as well. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, temperatures getting a little warmer. Let's continue with that 7-day outlook. You can see again after that chance for that flooding or the heavier rain later tonight and early tomorrow. The flood watch through 2 a.m. tomorrow for North Carolina. Tomorrow, just a chance for isolated storms. Then we turn up the heat. 93 for your Wednesday. A slight chance of a shower or storm. On Thursday, Juneteenth, better chances for isolated to scattered wet weather. Temperatures near 94. Back to 88 on Friday with mostly sunny skies. And then Saturday and Sunday, highs there in the low to mid 90s. So it will be hot. But hey, for the first full weekend of summer, we're looking at a decent amount of sunshine. So things looking pretty good. Some good beach weather, whether you want to hit the ocean or the bay. Things are looking pretty good. All right, I want to remind you, you can get more information, and the best thing to do to stay in touch with our weather forecast is by downloading the 13 News Now mobile app. Scan that QR code. You'll have access to our forecast, special weather updates, different alerts as needed when severe weather threatens, and of course news updates as well from our news team here at 13 News Now Plus. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Weather Desk. Again, I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, and we'll be back every single weekday morning from Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. with more of today's top weather headlines. Have a great time, and we'll see you next time.